So here we have all three of the most recent Metcons. That's number 2, 3 in the middle, and 4 at the very end just here. So today I'm going to talk about basically how the three of them differ, because obviously we have updates in shoes and people are like, oh, it's exactly the same, and yes, to a degree it can be, but there are small little tweaks which either improve the shoe to make it feel better, or actually for some people it's a little bit detrimental in contrast to the previous one. Now, as you can see, I'm doing training shoes this time around. So training shoes are slightly different in terms that they're there mainly to offer to kind of all-round stability, lateral support, because they help you if you're moving in side-to-side directions or front and back or twisting and so on. Metcon specifically linked to kind of functional fitness, so CrossFit style workouts, etc, etc. Running shoes, not necessarily to be used for training, because a running shoe is made for forwards and backwards movement. There is not stability made in the uppers or in the midsoles to help cater for side-to-side movement. So as a rule of thumb, I always suggest a training shoe differing from your running shoe, so you don't wear the shoe in a different way that you don't want to and can hamper how well you're going to run it next time. So back to these. So first thing really that kind of is very different is obviously you can see the uppers. So we'll start with the 2. So on the 2 you can see there's a lot more overlays through this kind of midfoot area. The toe box as well was very much reinforced, quite a strong, stiff, firm mesh that they used, and an overlay of this thermoplastic there as well to really give you that toe protection. Through the midfoot they had extra overlays wrapping through that area of the foot, through the arch, for obviously when you're doing rope climbs and things like that, which I can't do, so I've never tried, but that's what that material is there for those of us who can. Looking round to the heel counter, you can see the heel counter just kind of is very simple. It's internal, so it's a little bit of firming through some thermoplastic that sits in the back of that heel there, but nothing too drastic. Dropping into the laces, you can see there is fly wire, so this little dark black material there on all of the laces, just to help, again, giving that lockdown through the foot. If I then show you the Metcon 3, you can see there's minimal differences. Key thing I would say is that the upper on the Metcon 3 is a lot more flexible. So I felt a lot more able to kind of move my foot around, and kind of, it still felt supported, but it was kind of a lot better because I didn't feel as restricted in and around the toes and around the midfoot when I was trying to do kind of faster exercises or quick sprints after doing other exercises. Similar, still you can see the fly wire going on through there and the lacing, and in terms of toe box it's still reinforced through here, but just not to the degree that it was on the 2. If we then look through the midfoot, you can see there is still some overlays there to help with kind of the rope climb, more so on the rubber itself. But I'd say the key difference that is different, yes, is in the heel. So you can see the heel counter on the Metcon 3 actually has a little bit of a reinforced plastic there just to, again, give you some hold and some stability, which wasn't on the 2. We still have a little bit of this extra sticking out material coming through onto the 3, but definitely not as much as was there on the 2. So it's to help with things like handstands on the wall and things like that, getting grip and all of that jazz. So yeah, that's a key difference really there. If we then jump up and upgrade onto the 4, my lucky number, yeah, we can see further differences still. So you can see there is still that little heel counter there, but they've just reduced the amount of material because it's not as necessary the amount they had previously, and obviously helps to reduce the weight of this shoe. In terms of the rest of the upper, we can still see that it's really nice and breathable. They've taken on that fit of the 3, so you can still move your toes around quite nice and flexible through there. We've still got the fly wire, but what's great about this Metcon 4 is that in contrast to the 3, if I grab that here, you can see on the Metcon 4 we have 5 holes of contact. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm lying to you, 6 holes of for the laces, whereas on the Metcon 4 we only had 5. So you can get a far better lockdown through the foot and far closer fit on the new 4 than you can on the 5. One thing I didn't mention on the others is that all of the tongues really nice and seamless, so really cushioned through that area. Now I'm going to jump onto the midsoles, and they do differ but not too drastically. So let me grab my midsoles. So this is from the Metcon 2. The midsole of this shoe is kind of built into the insole, so it's a really kind of easy way for the manufacturers to alter things, and also easy for us to see differences in how they function. So the midsole density itself is no different between all 3. Key differences is on the back. So if I pick up these three in a wonderful little fan shape, whoop, you can just about still see me. You can see how on the Metcon 2 here, we had very little flexibility through the toes. So when you're trying to run in that shoe, after say doing deadlifts or whatever, it was very difficult to actually get some flexing trying to run into that shoe. In the 3 and 4, they updated this, and you can see the extra flex screws that they've got going on, especially through kind of the big toe segment area on both of those. And that's kind of the key difference really that we saw. So it meant it aided flexibility and complemented the change in the outsole, which we're going to look at now. So if we look at the outsole of all 3 shoes, we'll start with the 2. So you can see outsole of the 2 here uses kind of like a hexagonal shaping to try and give the support and the traction on the sole. So you can see in the middle they look kind of 3D cubing. That's basically just to add more traction for that sort of midfoot and up into the big toe joint area where we used to kind of push and pull. And you've also got it through the heels. If you're doing sled drags, those kind of pulls and things, that's where you get a little bit more reinforcement there. That was great, but again, really not as flexible as we wanted. Combined with that midsole, really doesn't give too much flexibility through the shoe. If we then come into the 3, we can see a bit of a revamped sole. So using this kind of triangular formation, it meant there was a lot more flexibility all the way through the shoe. Now, there was still little bits of reinforcement through kind of the midfoot area here and moving up on the toe, but in general, the midsole itself even wrapped around into this sort of medial area of the foot underneath that arch, just to give that extra feel of contact and grip, especially for those rope climbs, for those of you who can do them. But yes, and then obviously as we come on to the 4, they decided not to change much. The outsole was working from the 3, so there was no real need to upgrade or do any differences. And again, it wraps around the lateral border as well as the medial border of that shoe there. So overall, all 3 Metcons, my personal opinion, I obviously love the 4. I've been training in the 4 recently and really like the feel. The overall fit as well is really lovely. It's not too heavy. I definitely noticed that the 2 is a little bit heavier. So there is a big difference, I'd personally say, feeling weight-wise, between the 2 and the 4. The 3 is that nice happy medium. It's kind of a little bit of both. If you want something a bit more stable just to lift in and you know you're not going to run in it, yeah, sure, there's your Metcon 2s. That's really going to be good for that. In terms of having something that's a bit more a functional shoe to kind of multitask, do a little bit of running, basically CrossFit, a combination of all of it, then yeah, this is probably your go-to shoe now, the new Metcon 4. Absolutely love it. And yeah, any feedback that you guys have on what you felt through the different Metcons, if you've got all the 3 Metcons, I'd love to hear your feedback. Obviously this was just my personal opinion, but yeah, 3 Metcons.